everyone, welcome along. Of course, it's a delightful day here at Silverstone. A little bit cloudy, as you would expect, as the Focus Cup Championship works into its second weekend of 2025. Of course, two races here at the Silverstone National Circuit. There was two races back in Donington Park, obviously, a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, one of those was cancelled. Of course, the first one being won by Lewis Clark, the two-time defending champion of the series. And he's not qualified on pole position here today. He's been out-qualified by Leo Paniatau. So we'll have a little bit of work ahead of him to go and chase him down as the racing will begin. Of course, once again, a fantastic grid of cars, 28 from front to back, separated in two different categories, of course, as you would expect, the ST300s and the ZTEC class as well. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Lewis McGlade, and I'll be taking you through the commentary for this weekend's racing. Of course, as I said before, there's two races this weekend, the first now and the second one at 5 o'clock. Let's talk you through the grid, though, starting with the ST300 category. Paniatau on pole position with Lewis Clark alongside. Then, of course, we'll have Ian Mitchell and Gary Mitchell, John Baker and Simon Walton, with Simon Watt and Simon Watts rounding out the 6-car ST300 category. Then working our way into the ZTECs, it's Mark McCann on pole position in that category with Ali Topley, who was victorious last time out at Donington Park. Adam Winter and Richard Wynn with Ian Graham and Seven Christian starting there back in 13th and 14th position. Then we've got Ian Howard and Craig Ballantyne starting from 20th position, or from 16th position rather. It will be 20th because of the grid break between the two categories. Then we'll have Rickaby starting alongside Simon Langford. Then it's Andrew Weiss and Mike NG starting from 20th position. Still plenty of rows left to go here with Katrina Gray starting alongside Abby Walton in 21st and 22nd position. Then it's Richard Hall and Matt Croft. Two more rows left to go, though, as we will get Sarah Hall and Cam FM also driving in the amateur category, so FM and AM. Nice one. Ben Pemberton starting from the final row of the grid alongside Tim Harrington in the number 32 car. There was also given a 5-place grid drop throughout the qualifying session, so I think it actually was from the previous event. So you'll see these cars entering into their grid slots. A little bit of windscreen wipers on. I can confirm it's not actually raining at the moment here at Silverstone, but it is grey and a little bit miserable, which is, fair enough. It means that it's going to be a little bit slip and slidey on that first lap as the tyres struggle to come up to temperature. You see what I mean about the break. You've got the front 8 cars, and then there's a break, and then we'll have the rest of the field, the other 20 cars that are in that ZTEC category. So obviously the two battles, two victories up for grabs effectively. And again, the championship, whilst we are early days, let's talk about it ever so slightly. Lewis Clark, obviously the two-time champion, is currently leading the championship after pole position and victory back in Donington Park. However, it's only by a couple of points he now leads the championship, courtesy of the pole position from Leo Paniatau. There's only a couple of points between the top two in the championship. Ali Topley leads the championship in the ZTEC category. So they'll all find their way into positions and they'll get there ready for the run down into turn 1. And of course, with Paniatau starting from that pole position, the full focus for 15 minutes will be on getting a good start and getting a good run. Of course, we are running just the national layout, so we'll run down the Wellington Straight and then down into Brooklands, basically straight after the opening bit at Maggots Beckett's, and then straight right, as you will probably know from seeing touring cars and stuff racing around here over the years. So we're racing for the first one today, and it is a good start, I believe, from Clark, who's got straight alongside Paniatau on the race down into the first corner. The number 1 car dragging himself comfortably alongside and comfortably clear by the time they get down into turn 1 in that ST300 category. So a great start from Lewis Clark. Paniatau dropped down then into second position as they all fumble their way through the first corner. It's still Topley leading in the ZTEC category as well. So he's worked his way through, and you can see the dusty, dirty diesels all powering their way down into the opening complex of corners. A bit of a lock-up in the background there from the 23. That's Simon Watts having a bit of a moment as they work their way through Brooklands. But you can see here a lot of standing water on the left-hand side of your camera, so you've got to be careful on the brakes into Brooklands. Here comes a move from Paniatau, straight down the inside, maybe a little bit too deep, with a bit of a slide, slams the throttle down to try and keep himself in second position and stop the car from over-rotating. But it is Paniatau then in second position. He gave it a good go, though, to go for the race lead there on the champion Lewis Clark. You've got Mitchell in behind. Of course, it's going to be Ian Mitchell and then Gary Mitchell running in third and fourth, I believe, inside the category. The 81 there of Ian Mitchell. The only switch in that top grouping really is that of Clark. Once again, big look to the inside coming in from Paniatau, trying to fire his way down the inside at Kops. That's a big, brave move. Doesn't run him out wide. Little bit of a brush, I think, between the front right of Lewis Clark and the rear left of Paniatau. And Paniatau is now your race leader. You've got Mitchell going to the inside as well by the time they get under the brakes, heading down into the Maggots Beckett's sequence. Of course, they're only really doing Maggots and then flicking it straight through the right and then back out onto the Wellington straight. And as you can see, Ian Mitchell unable to get through on that occasion. John Baker's also worked his way up into fourth position with Gary Mitchell dropping back now into fifth. And then it's Walton in sixth position. The lead, I believe, in the other category is Ali Topley, who is currently leading in the ZX category after overtaking the lead of the category from McCann. So that's where the switches have happened at the moment in the opening portion of the race. No one's made too much positions up, apart from a bit lower down. You've got the number 99 of Richard Hall, who's gained 3 positions on the opening lap, as has Harrington, who started obviously from the rear of the field in that ZTEC category. Back to the race lead then, of course, here in the ST300s, marked by the pink category on the left-hand side in that timing tower. And it is Paniatau once again leading the race. You've got Clark all over the rear end, trying to find some way of working his way up and back into the race lead is Clark. And unfortunately for now, he's going to have to settle for second position. You can see there might be, there's a little bit of windscreen wiper action going on. I don't think it's actually raining presently. I think it's more just wind and some of the water that's already been in the moisture that's been out on circuit at the moment. Actually, no, I'll correct myself. I can definitely see from that camera angle it is raining. I'm sure all the camera operators were like, what are you talking about? It's definitely raining out here. Paniatau certainly not dealing with it too well, but someone who's definitely not dealing with it too well, the two-time champion, Lewis Clark, straight off the road there going into Brooklands, opens up the door for Ian Mitchell to come through in the number 81, and Lewis Clark dropping back then into third position. Now potentially about to be tacked by Baker as well as they work their way back out through Woodcote and then on to the start-finish straight. It's a handy lead now for Paniatau. 1.1 seconds. Trust me, that can chop and change over the 11 minutes that we've got left to go. Hello, Marshall. As there's, you can see plenty of moisture out there because the windscreen wiper was going quite a bit there on Paniatau. But obviously, it's just because it's raining down at Brooklands doesn't necessarily mean it's raining at Cops. So it doesn't look too bad down there. It's kind of that awkward, tricky, greasy conditions that they all have to deal with that sometimes can be a little bit hard. You've got to be very confident on the throttle in these, obviously, front-wheel drive focuses. Plant that throttle and try and keep the front end ahead of the rear, which is obviously where Lewis Clark came a cropper on the previous lap. Comfortable lead now, very much showing for Paniatau. Elsewhere, by the way, let's just talk very quickly, is the lead of the ZTEC category is still Topley, who's now leading by just about half a second over McCann. The top two in the ZTEC category have actually pulled out to around 3 seconds clear of those behind. You can see the battle there for the race lead just coming up into Brooklands. The number 41 there, that is Topley. Then it's McCann in second position, and that being the battle there for second or for the lead of our second category is Topley in that very distinctive Power Maxed livery. Just trying to hang on. And yes, there is a YouTube link. You can find it exactly. If you've not joined the broadcast somehow, you can find where to watch it. It says it right on the side of the number 64 car there of Mark McCann, who obviously started from pole position in the ZTEC category and is now trying to attack for the race lead in that ZTEC category. Again, these cars less powerful diesel, they're not running quite as fast lap times, obviously, as you expect from the ST300 category. I think they're also a little bit heavier and a bit more lethargic around the circuit. And I mean, look, they're still going to race quite as well, but you can see the top two there have absolutely checked away from the rest of the field. At the moment is Topley from McCann, from Winter, from Graham, from Rickaby, who's actually had a great start to the race, by the way. Has Rickaby up into 5th position in the category. So there is a look at the number 4 of Winter. There's Graham, and there is Rickaby. You can see him all the way up into 5th position. Obviously, the joy of two categories is trying to follow it all. I wonder if based on the speed difference around a lap. There's about 6 or 7 seconds a lap difference between the front of the SD300 category and then the front of the ZTEC category as to how much lap traffic Paniatau is going to have to deal with through this race. I know it's only 15 minutes, but with that difference in category in speed, you would assume that Paniatau is definitely going to have a few to deal with in this race, and I think the expectation is there is going to be a little bit of lap traffic. Paniatau, by the way, taking complete control in the ST300 category. It's a 1.8 second lead from Paniatau over Ian Mitchell. Lewis Clark having to settle for third position. Not something we had to say too often about Lewis Clark in the dominant run of 2024. I was talking about lap traffic, and yeah, you can see you've got some of these ST300s working their way through it. So certainly not going to be easy for them to deal with as we look back at a fight a bit lower down the order. That is Ferrari Mackenzie, that is FM, Cam FM, battling with Mike NG, which is a lot of letters, as NG will try and get to the inside, heading back out onto the start-finish straight. You've got Walton there in the number 3 car, the one that is currently running in 5th position overall in this race, as, again, those that are running higher up in the race, obviously in that ST300 category, are trying to navigate those ZTEC back markers. That battle between NG and FM, fair way down. What has happened to our race leader? Paniatau was dominating this race, and there must be some form of technical issue with that car because he's pulled over and gone straight basically back into pit lane. But Paniatau, the number 29, the race leading car, has come into the pit lane. What on earth has happened to him? It does pass over the race lead over to Ian Mitchell in that ST300 category. Lewis Clark will take over 2nd position, and then Baker will take over 3rd position inside that ST300 category. Obviously, everyone else will gain positions accordingly, but Paniatau was looking basically dominant, was looking comfortable. I wonder if there was... I find it unlikely there was some form of any contact because no one else has really dropped down the order too much, apart from maybe the number 21 of Sarah Hall. But I don't think that was due to an incident. I think it was more to do with just racing with Pemberton and maybe having a bit of a moment in these tricky conditions. Either way, we can't speculate too much about it. We can just tell you as it is, and that is that Paniatau is out of the opening race here at the Silverstone National Circuit. Of course, we'll see Paniatau hopefully back out in the racing at about 5 o'clock when we have our second race a little bit later on. Well, there's someone who's been off the road. It's Harrington. After starting from the rear of the field after a grid drop, courtesy of an issue back in Donington, Harrington rose up the order and is now in the gravel trap at Copse. So the number 32 car, that will neutralise this race, I am sure, because that is fairly deep in that gravel trap, and that is not coming out anytime soon. And that, with 5 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in this race, might even call the end of it, to be honest, if they're not able to get that car out of the way. No safety car out on circuit as of yet, so they're doing it under double wave yellows down at turn 1 at Copse. So yeah, I'm sure race control will be on that one as quick as possible. Ian Mitchell, by the way, in the SD300 lead, has a 1.5 second lead now over Lewis Clark as they cross the line to complete the 8th lap of running here at Silverstone. Is still Topley leading in the ZTEC category over McCann. That gap still only hovering around 3/4 of a second, so still very tight indeed. You can see the waved yellows there heading down the start-finish straight, and obviously that one for Harrington's car, which remains stuck and embedded in that gravel trap. So we've had two issues from this race, one being Paniatau, one being Harrington. The pair of those basically dropping right the way and plummeting right the way down the order, and they will not be scoring really anything from this race. Whoa, big moment there from the number 27 of Ian Graham, just having a big slide going through Brooklands, now being attacked by 7 Christian as well, who's just trying to find some way through. Rickaby, who I'd said before, has actually had a really good run and really good pace in this race. This is the battle for 4th position overall. So Rickaby, who'd got up to 5th position, has dropped back to 6th, but is going on the attack of Christian. Of course, you can't make a move down at turn 1. We're still kind of looking for it. There is Rickaby. They are battling. Oh, that's not going to go down well with race control. If Harrington's car is still in the gravel trap, that will not go down well. Having a bit of a look down the inside there from Rickaby on Christian, with Graham currently leading that battle. That car is in the gravel trap, so yeah, battling down towards turn 1. You've got to respect the flags. Yeah, that's interesting from Rickaby. That's all I'll say. One switch in the ST300 category sees Gary Mitchell up now into 4th position ahead of Walton. So a switch for 4th position in that category. As we can see, I think even Clark might have dropped back as well behind Baker, mate. Oh, actually, no. I think Ian Mitchell's been caught. That's what's happened. Ian Mitchell has been caught by Lewis Clark in the battle for the race lead. So we can see this battle here. But the next 2 cars ahead, that red and that blue car, this one just coming through shot now, the 81, that is Ian Mitchell, your overall race leading car, had a 1.5 second lead that has absolutely disappeared. Now Lewis Clark is on the attack for the race lead in the Focus Cup Championship. The 3rd race of the season, Lewis Clark, who's had it effectively so easy the last 2 years of the championship, was being really hammered by Pani Atau at the start of this race, and obviously had that big moment coming down in the Brooklands, losing out to Ian Mitchell, and now it does seem as though the 81 feeling the pressure late on in the race. Any mistakes through the back markers, any mistakes with the tricky conditions, and yeah, the door is going to be open for Lewis Clark, the 2-time champion, to work his way through, I'm sure. Again, blue flags being shown. That was there for Sarah Hall, who's currently running in 26th position now. A couple of laps down, unfortunately, in the first race of the weekend, struggling to get to grips. Which, to be fair, if you are struggling in these kind of conditions, it is better to basically completely underdrive the car and just make sure that you're not giving anyone any work to do when it comes to repairing the machine. There'll be 2 laps left to go once they get to the line, with 2 minutes on the clock. They're running around 1 minute 10-second lap times, these two, and Clark's got a great opportunity to go after the victory if he can maybe dig deep and find a route through. But at the moment, it seems like it might have to come through mistakes, potentially, from Ian Mitchell. That's not a movement for position, that's just a movement for lap traffic, as Baker was trying to work his way up. And there we go, navigating lap traffic goes Ian Mitchell, sweeping around. The thing is, obviously, as you're getting past some of that lap traffic, it's pushing you offline. It's putting you onto the slightly more slippery bit of the circuit, and you can see the rain is definitely getting heavier out there on the circuit. It is looking pretty uncomfortable out there. Is the JCB car, Pemberton, not happy. Really not happy in that car is Pemberton, but thankfully not stuck in a gravel trap, so it won't have to be assisted by a JCB. So there are some positives, as we'll see Mitchell still leading. 1 minute 5 seconds left to go, about to come on to the last lap on the timing. So plenty of traffic up ahead. That'll be very concerning, I'm sure. Look at all of those Z-Tech cars currently at the moment sat ahead. He'll want to clear as many of these by the time he gets down into turn 1 as is humanly possible, and try and basically keep Clark behind them, and exactly that he's got through. It's NG who's struggling to get through. It's McCann who's currently sat in 2nd position in the Z-Tech category. Actually, that's the battle for the Z-Tech lead. Never mind. I was going to say it was McCann who was in 2nd position here, but Ali Topley had actually been passed by McCann, and so that battle for the race lead has gone the way of McCann. 2 battles for 2 race leads in one shot. There we go. And it's the 64 there of McCann in the Z-Tech lead. At the moment, just about hanging on from Ali Topley, the championship leader at the moment in that Power Maxed entry that will be on the left-hand side as they break coming down into Brooklands. Ian Mitchell leading at the moment in the ST300s as we head our way through Brooklands. Battles up and down the order. You can see a battle behind as well, that one for the race lead in the Z-Tech category. Of course, they had to battle at exactly the same time, and it will be McCann out on top, just about from Ali Topley, as they'll come out through the final corner and out towards the line. Across the line, though, for victory, I do believe, will be Ian Mitchell ahead of Lewis Clark as the checkered flag is waved. It is just about Ian Mitchell ahead of Lewis Clark by half a second, and the battle for the Zetec lead will go the way of McCann and Topley. At least they crossed the line pretty similar to each other. Bit of a drag race in behind as it was Gary Mitchell and such all crossing the line, obviously in differing categories, but fair enough. Of course, the main talking points there, great battle for the race lead between Ian Mitchell and Lewis Clark, and a great battle for the race lead in the Zetec category between McCann and Topley as well. Wait for them all to cross the line. Pemberton having a bit of a moment late on there, a bit of a shame. Paniatau, I honestly need to find out what happened there. But Paniatau, who looked so strong early in the early phase of the race, has had that one basically completely robbed, unfortunately. And of course, Harrington there in the gravel trap out at turn 1. Removing one of the major overtaking points around the circuit. There's not many corners around here, but obviously we had one of them removed, courtesy of the double-waved yellows there to recover Harrington's Zetec classed car. So it's 2 retirements from the Zetec category and 1 from the ST300s. But indeed, great battles to start the day. Of course, we'll get another race later on, don't worry. Obviously, we'll go through the results as well, provisional. Of course, I think there's a few things that might need a couple of bits of looking at, I'm sure. But we do have another race to deal with at about 5 o'clock here at Silverstone. As to what the weather conditions will look like then, well, it's non-committal. It's kind of a bit all over the place. Let's take a look then at the provisional results then from the third race, technically, of the championship. Ian Mitchell then takes the race victory by half a second over Lewis Clark. Then it's Baker, then it's Gary Mitchell and Simon Walton in 5th position, with Simon Waugh and Simon Watts rounding out the 7 cars that would finish in the ST300 category. Great battle between McCann and Topley. Vinter there as well in 10th position, the top 3 in the Zetec category. Graham and Rickaby having some great showings in that race, with Christian, Langford, Weiss win, and then of course Ballantyne, Howard, Ridgetall, and then Walton down there in 20th position. This is where we'll see the retirements. Of course, we get Gray, we get Croft, FM, NG, and then of course Sarah Hall down there in 25th position. And unfortunately, the retirements, Pemberton, Paniatau and Harrington all out of the race. Hopefully they get their cars all sorted. They've got plenty of time to do so though, of course, because we'll be racing again. The official race start time is 5 minutes past 5. We'll probably be a little bit earlier than that. We'll have to see about that when we get to it. We'll hope that the weather is slightly better. Until then, I'll see you in a bit. Bye.